Chris Evans makes his return to the MCU. Golden Globe nominations were announced, and Jeremy Allen White joins the Star Wars cast for The Mandalorian and Grogu. All that and more coming up on Multiverse News. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me today, we have a little bit of a different panel. First, we're missing both Haley and Jay Sisson tonight. They both had previous engagements, but Jay Scotty's in the house. What's up, Jay Scotty?
You couldn't get rid of me if you wanted to. I'm here. Let's do this.
Oh, and we've tried. Just can't get rid of him. And then, making his triumphant return on a great week for it, my partner from the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, Jeff Randall. What's happening, Jeff?
That's me. That's my name. Hi.
Hey, welcome.
We're missing Jay Sisson, but we have a Jay Scotty, and we're missing Haley. And I'm Jeffrey. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm sorry.
Mm-mm.
I tried.
Nope. There's some rhymes in there. Jeffrey and Haley. No, you're right. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
Why'd you lead us down this road? This dark road.
Down the road.
All right. Well, we definitely have some great stories to get to. If you've seen the thumbnail, you already know. Very excited about to this week's episode. But we do have a 5-star review to tell you guys about up top. We have Tyrese, I believe, says, love the podcast and hoping to get read out if I leave an extra star. So is Tyrese saying that we're a 4-star podcast?
4 stars?
We're a 4-star podcast, but he left a 5th star, like he left an extra star so he'd get read out. That's the way I'm taking that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my initial interpretation, but you might be right.
Man, what a backhanded 5-star review. Yeah. I love it.
We'll take it.
Thank you. Meanest 5-star review yet.
I love I love the candor. I love I love the truthful, piercing nature of those comments.
Yeah, the honesty behind that backhanded compliment. All right, well, as mentioned, let's move to our first story. This is huge. We haven't really had a chance to talk about it yet, so let's do it.
Tip top of the multiverse.
Yep, here it goes. Chris Evans will appear in Avengers Doomsday. The Hollywood Reporter confirmed the story late on December 9th. Evans is best known for his role as Steve Rogers in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and retired from the role in 2019, or so we thought, following the climactic Avengers Endgame. Doomsday will also feature Evans' co-star Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, though Evans' role is not yet specified. Recently, Evans reprised his first Marvel role of Johnny Storm in this year's billion-dollar blockbuster Deadpool and Wolverine. Is the reaction to this news as hot as Johnny or as cold as Steve on Ice?
It could be both. It's an ice-fire kind of situation because we've already gotten a giant reveal of RDJ. Holy crap, he's coming back. Dr. Doom, new mask, same task, whatever. But now they're like, but also Steve Rogers. Or, but also Chris Evans. Because they didn't say Evans. Steve Rogers. So it could be, it kind of feels like, let's pile on just a little bit more. A little teaspoon on top extra. It's like, okay, sure, yeah, everybody's coming back. Fine. But then it could also be something crazy where he's a new version of Johnny Storm in a different version of the Fantastic Four that this Doomsday destroys. I would love to see that.
Ooh.
Like he obliterates the Fantastic Four that includes Chris Evans, Johnny Storm.
I like that, except we've already seen
Johnny Storm get ripped apart.
We've already seen Johnny Storm get ripped apart and another Fantastic Four of John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic get murked like immediately when he stepped on screen. So I feel like that might be, I don't know, maybe that's the whole thing though. Maybe Doom is going from universe to universe, like killing all 4 of them. I don't know.
That could give us the God Emperor Doom that we all deserve.
Yeah, exactly. there's so many things here, and I do think that the most likely thing is that it's going to be Steve Rogers. That just makes the most sense. But as you said, like RDJ is Doom. The possibilities are endless. He could be Chris Evans. Could be Apocalypse. I don't know. Like, just completely out of nowhere, make him some other villain. Like, I have no idea. But they could do anything they want. But even if they do him as Steve Rogers, they have options there too. There's the alternate reality version of Steve Rogers. There's Steve Rogers as Captain America, like some sort of look back. Like we've talked about how maybe this Doom is a version of Tony. So if that's the case, could it be like they actually go back and tell the story of their universe and where it diverged, like where RDJ's character becomes that nexus, where the nexus event happens, you know? What if they go back to like Ultron and we're watching Steve and Tony do their thing and then something happens that diverges the universes?
Well, you remember the vision that Tony Stark had where everybody was laying at his feet, like everybody was dead.
Yeah,
in Age of Ultron.
That's true. Ooh,
we could have that exact sort of thing happen, and that's the moment that he turns and puts on the Doom mask.
Isn't it Cap that says to him, like, "You could have saved us.
You could have saved us.
Could have done more," or something. Yeah.
Or what about this? Now we're just theorizing. I told you this was going to be a very MCU cast, multiverse news, with me and Jeff talking about Chris Evans' return. But like, what about? So we do get a version of Tony. His same task. He wants to put a suit of armor around the world, if that's his task in this version. If that's what they mean, and he's trying to put that suit of armor on, and he diverts and does something different, and in his goal of doing that, he's killing other universe versions, and then he fulfills that exact dream by killing his friends, but from the multiverse. So like we see that scene again, but he actually has fulfilled that fear, but it's actually by his hands. It's not just like he failed to protect them; he actually did it. He murdered them all.
He brought that on himself.
Yeah.
That's why they're all laying at his feet with nobody. Like, no, there was no bad guy. Right, there was no like villain laying on the steps of Sanctuary. Like, it's just him.
Yeah, it's just him as the last person standing.
That could be real good.
There's also the option that he might be Old Man Cap still. Like that just might be the version we get, and I think that's very, very possible.
I mean, it could also just be like he's appearing for 5 minutes. You know, like he's in a scene, and you never see him again.
I want to start by saying this news is just huge. Like, I can't think, the last time a headline made me do like a full like 180 was the RDJ announcement back in July at Comic-Con. And I find it fascinating how inherently tied these announcements are. And while this headline is so, you know, earth-shattering, mind-bending, I think it loses a little bit of impact because we already had such a big splash when RDJ came back. So
absolutely,
I think to both of your points, it begs a lot of questions. Like I do think, as opposed to another character, I kind of see him coming back as some version of Steve Rogers, be that, you know, Captain Hydra, Old Man Cap, what have you. There are so many variants out there that we could pull from, but I have to look at the behind the scenes stuff as well. Like, how long has this been in the process? How long have they been having these conversations with Chris Evans? Because for the longest time, it did not seem like he was interested in coming back at all. But then, you know, he came back for Deadpool and Wolverine. They let him have a comedic role that didn't require all that much from him. And outside of that, he has not had a lot of success. He had Knives Out, but that was like, you know, the better part of 3-4 years ago now. And then Red One has not done well at all. That's been a big, you know, I wouldn't say disaster, but it's kind of like falling flat on its face, for lack of a better term there. So
to give Jay Sisson credit in our chat, when this news came across the line, Jay Sisson said, "Well, looks like Chris Evans saw that Red One box office returns and immediately called Kevin Feige." It's like, is there room for me in this Doomsday thing?
Yeah. But I do have to just keep coming back to the RDJ announcement, because the emotions that I'm experiencing, I'm taken right back to that place as well. And I remember when we got that announcement, it was I was so excited, and it was almost like nervous energy. I didn't really know where to put it. And with RDJ, I think my initial reaction was a little more on the negative side, and I had to like slowly talk myself and warm up to the idea. With Cap, it's a little bit the opposite. It's like, of course I want Cap in Doomsday. This seems obvious. We got RDJ back. We want Chris Evans to return. But then I start to think about, unless it's like what you said, Jeff, where he's only appearing in one scene or has a really minimal role, what does this mean for our new Avengers? What does this mean for Sam Wilson's version of Cap? What does this mean for Shang-Chi, who we've been begging to get more of? And I thought, Doomsday would be his place to shine, given the fact that Destin Daniel Cretton was previously attached to the Kang Dynasty version of this all. So as much as I want to have Cap back, and I will be over the moon excited when he makes his appearance on screen, if it is at the cost of the development of these other characters and these new Avengers, in the big scheme of things, I think that's a little bit of a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, if we can't let go of the past, we can't ever move on. We can't move to the new crew. And it's kind of up to us as the fans. Like we have to ask for not just like bring back, whatever they did in the past, like give us new good stories, give us new better stories featuring these characters. Cause like Shang-Chi was really good. And despite there being a big CGI fight that Matt didn't like at the end, like ultimately I felt the film was pretty solid, like start to finish. So like, give me more of that world, give me more of that story, instead of like retelling the same old or like putting different new spins on the same old. Because that's a DC thing.
Well, and I said best case scenario back when we heard about Doom. I didn't like it. Like as much as I'm excited because it's so big and interesting and weird, but I didn't like the fact that they're going back to that well, because I think they need to establish, like, we haven't had an Avengers movie. You know what I mean? Like we haven't had a team up movie since these guys were around. It'd be one thing if this was the end of the, I guess this may be the end of the Multiverse saga at this point, but like, it'd be one thing if this was like the third or fourth Avengers movie after we'd established a new team, and then we're bringing back the old crew. But this is all along I've been saying I didn't really like the idea, because I think it traps Marvel into staying with the same crew forever. But my one saving thought was that, like, okay, well, maybe it's just RDJ is coming back to give it some sauce, to give it some everyone's going to be get their butts in the seats for RDJ's Doom. And then they can finally build out the new team. We finally pass the torch. I get a real passing the torch, because they really didn't do that in Endgame. They just sort of like, it was about the core 6, 7, 8 Avengers, and they really didn't build up a new team in that one. Yeah. So, or like even give any screen time to much of anybody. So I'm fearful that bringing Chris Evans in is a sign that they're like going to give even more screen time to the same original 6 Avengers. Which, I mean, if these guys are there, Thor and Banner are still alive. Like, they're going to show up too. There's going to be another scene where we get the 4 of them together. Like,
Clint's
and
around.
If they do, Clint's around. If they do all of that, it's how much time are they going to have to build the new Avengers?
Yeah. If it's an alternate version, then, we could also get an alternate Black Widow.
For sure.
It's entirely possible to bring all of them back and just completely undercut all of that progress that we've made with new characters. Like, you can't there's no takebacks on handing the torch off. You just have to give it and watch them go. And it's like taking the training wheels off the kid. You let them go, they'll wobble a little bit, but they're going to figure it out.
I will say this. I said this on, I don't know if you guys listened to my MCU cast at all yet, but the one thing that this could be, and I'm sorry for thinking of it, because it's a bummer. We need a reason to hate Doom. If he's RDJ, he is going to have like all that charisma, and we're going to want to like give him all the love we have for Tony, and we need a reason to hate him. Him stepping into our universe and like squaring off against Old Man Cap, and Old Man Cap doing a last stand against Doom and then dying at his hands would be like oh, I hate this guy. Like, I actually hate this character. That would be a real transformation for whether it's the Tony Stark character or some other version of RDJ. Like, I would hate that character at that point.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, you're going to hate this even more because my mind did kind of go to a similar place, but I was thinking about how, you know, we've learned that anchor beings are going to be some kind of through line. Like Kevin Feige said, I'm glad that you honed in on the term anchor being. So I'm thinking, like, what if Doom is, you know, categorically hunting down anchor beings, or conversely, he's trying to assemble a team of anchor beings for his battle world?
Ooh.
I think that's very possible, and I hate it. You're right. I hate it so much.
You would.
You're so right.
It all comes down to execution. I don't like the idea on the surface myself, but if it's executed properly, I could be down for it.
Yeah, the fact that he said that's something that we really want to, and like way back in WandaVision, they have that whole Nexus commercial for that medicine, and like that was really hinting at the idea of Nexus beings. I think they say Nexus beings in that.
I think the show uses the term Nexus events.
No, Nexus events was from Loki.
I
believe.
You're right.
I believe they say Nexus beings in WandaVision. So that's why
you might be right.
Okay. I think that may have been an early version of what later became anchor beings. I'm not sure, but to me that seems possible because we reworked a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's weird, and also that character. We've talked about it before, but I'm pretty sure that character might have been originally meant to be Doctor Strange, but they couldn't get him. The doctor that gives her the medication or whatever.
I do remember
he
hearing
was supposed
some
to be in the show,
that.
And that was one of the places we all thought he might have shown up. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know, guys. I'm really excited, but fearful. I'm so fearful.
Same.
Let us know what you think. We'll be talking about this for a while, I'm sure. This will be a topic of conversation ongoing here on the cast and on the MCU cast. So, you know, we'll be over there talking about this even more in depth because it's gonna be crazy. All right, well, I guess we're moving to our next story. As Mariah Carey might say / sing, it's time.
Higher.
It's
good.
time.
You gotta break the ice higher.
Okay. It's
It almost sounded like you were like auto-tuning yourself. That was good.
I couldn't get all the way to the third, so I think I was like on the 7th or something weird. Okay. As Mariah Carey might say or sing, it's time. It's time. Our first award season nominations are here, with the 2025 Golden Globe noms having been released this week. Smaller films took the lead on nominations, with Emilia Pérez receiving 10 nominations, followed by The Brutalist, Conclave, and The Substance. In television, The Bear takes top place at 5 nominations, and yes, it's still listed in the comedy category, while Only Murders in the Building and Shogun each have 4 noms. Netflix leads the pack of distributors with 26 nominations in total. The Box Office Achievement Awards, which was new last year, has 8 nominees and will include box office revenue and commensurate streaming viewership. Whose favorites made it to the top of the nominations list?
Yeah, a few of my favorites managed to squeeze in there. And I said this last year, but I'll say it again. For anybody that has any interest in the award season, the season and the campaigns, and spoiler alert, I am, because I'm not into sports, so this is kind of like my Super Bowl. This is really the kind of like kickoff for the season. This is the first, for a lot of people, the first instance that they're hearing about a lot of these like indie films and festival favorites and whatnot. So to that end, I always find this time of year really exciting, because that's when I get to start making my watch list and get really ready and excited for awards season. So that being said, amongst in the film category, as far as the ones that I have seen, I've seen Conclave and The Substance. Really enjoyed both, but The Substance is the one that I'm kind of really championing. It's a kind of like body horror film with Demi Moore, and just the fact that it's made the waves that it has and it's gotten the attention that it has. The Academy is not generally very kind when it comes to the horror category, and it's not a straight up horror. So maybe that's where it's kind of like art house body horror. So I guess that's kind of where it got to squeeze in a little bit there. But apart from that, Emilia Pérez is available on Netflix right now, so it's just a matter of time before I check that one out. Between Zoe Saldana and Selena Gomez, that movie is getting a lot of buzz and a lot of attention, so I will be sure to check it out. Outside of that, I will admit The Brutalist with Adrian Brody. I've been hearing nothing but phenomenal praise for that, but it is 3.5 hours, and it does have an intermission, thankfully. But after last year with Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm really not interested in spending more than 3 hours in a movie theater. I think Oppenheimer was perfect at 3 hours, and it shouldn't have been a minute longer, and that was good. But anything longer than that is just too much. So yeah, I think I'll leave the rest for you guys to kind of talk about, especially in the the box office achievements category. And as far as the TV shows go, a few of us here on Multiverse News did watch Shogun, so hopefully you've kind of heard what we thought about that. It was just stellar TV and deserving of all the attention and the praise that it's gotten. So highly encourage you to check that one out. And Only Murders in the Building has always been one of my favorites, but I still need to catch up on the most recent season. It didn't really grab me, but there's Selena Gomez again for you, so good year for her.
Yeah, when these come out every year, I always look at them and go, "Oh, I saw no movies this year."
Yeah.
Because I see some of the bigger stuff in theaters, but it's generally when award season comes around, I finally sit down and watch some of these awards contenders. And when the Oscars come around, we do our Oscars watch on Bingers, so I always get to watch a lot of the Oscar movies there. But this is the first foray, and first time I'm hearing. I was looking through this, the Conclave. I think I heard of that. That's basically the one. I missed a lot of these movies, but when it turned to the TV side, I knew a lot more of those shows and had seen a lot of them. I really hope Hacks beats The Bear, even though I think The Bear is a better show. I am annoyed at the comedy thing. I am, because I think those two shows are a weird example of the comedy category. We've talked about it here on the show before, so I was kind of shorthanding it, but the idea that The Bear is a comedy is a stretch. And Hacks is a show that is a comedy with some drama, and The Bear is a drama with some comedy, and it's very clear that that's the case. And I get annoyed by The Bear being in the comedy category, and I think it could win the drama category. So I'm just kind of annoyed by that whole thing, and I feel like Hacks beat it for a couple things last year, and I hope that trend continues. Although there's a number of places where those two shows are against each other because they're both in the comedy category, and I'm generally voting for Hacks, or rooting for Hacks. But in the I believe it's the female lead role, you got Ayo Edebiri from the Bear, Jean Smart from Hacks, but then Catherine Hahn from Agatha is in there, and it's a best comedy or musical. So I think she killed it in that, and I'm really wanting to see Catherine Hahn take that one. So The Penguin did really well in a number of categories.
Right, good call.
Yeah, best television limited series. I think it could take that, which this show is very based in the genre comic book movie vibe, and I think that it has a good chance. It has a really good chance. And Kristen Milioti also, for her role in that, she also got best performance by a female actor in a limited series. So I think they both could take those away. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I don't know. I kept Shrinking got a ton of nominations, and I hate to say it, as much as I love Shrinking, it got a lot of acting noms, and I love the show. I love it, but I don't think any of those actors are why that show is wonderful. They're good, they're serviceable, but it's just not. like it is written well and it's paced well, and like I just think most of the actors, maybe Harrison Ford as best supporting actor, I could go for in Shrinking.
Okay.
But I feel like Shrinking's not going to go home with many from this.
Well, hopefully just the buzz is enough to get it some attention, and maybe I think it's already got a 3rd season on the way, but maybe a 4th season if that's something the creators are interested in doing.
Speaking of things that should get a little of attention, Ted Danson was nominated for best performance by an actor in a musical or comedy for Man on the Inside.
Okay.
And I've just recently been watching that, and it's really fun. I was looking at that category, and it sucks because I look at it and I'm like, I think The Bear is going to win that one because I think it's by far the best performance, but I'm annoyed that it's in that category.
When I was scrolling through at one point and kind of just hovered on A Man on the Inside for a little bit, and it played the trailer, or whatever you would want to call it for that, I was watching that and just died laughing so many times because Ted Danson was just so funny. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is basically just him in A Good Place again, or The Good Place, The Good Place again. Like it's that over again. I'm down. I'm so down because The Good Place was so good. Yeah,
the characters are not drastically different, but I think that the show is really well done and like weirdly tackles a part of society. It's about him. If you don't know, it's about him signing up to do an investigation of an old folks home, and he goes into the old folks home as an investigator, but like he's living in an old folks home for the first time. So it's like about that transition of life and dealing with the death of the people around you and stuff like that. So it's got some heavy themes, but it's mostly just a really fun comedy.
Okay, yeah. I knew nothing about it outside the fact that it was on Netflix. It's from Michael Schur, has Ted Danson and Stephanie Beatrice. So nice reunion from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place, some of the other shows he's worked on. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out. But I will say, if all this awards talk has piqued your interest, we definitely have to mention that you can watch the actual ceremony January 5th on CBS. Nikki Glaser is going to host, who got a nomination for a best performance in a stand-up or comedy special herself.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
Interesting. Interesting to be a host and nominated at the same time.
Conflict of interest.
I don't think it's probably the best one of the year, but I just love Seth Meyers so much. So his, I think it's Dad Man Walking, I think was his stand-up special. It was good, but like, I just really like Seth Meyers a lot. And like this last couple years, he's kind of he used to just be like a guy who was clearly like playing the role of a late night host, and like over the last couple of seasons, he's been doing some more online content and stuff. And he's clearly just become more comfortable with himself. And he's now a lot more loose. And I think he's so funny when he's loose like that. And I feel like that stand-up special kind of showcased that some. I don't think it's the best stand-up special of the year, but I kind of hope it wins because I like Seth so much. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about that when it gets closer, who wins and whatnot. But let's move on to the world of Star Wars. No, you're not crazy, and neither are we. Golden Globe nominee and frequent winner Jeremy Allen White has been cast to play Jabba the Hutt's son, Rata the Hutt, in the Mandalorian and Grogu film. But don't panic yet. The actor is simply lending his voice to the character that was originally seen in the Clone Wars animated film. Between White's resume of Shameless, his success on The Bear, and his upcoming Bruce Springsteen biopic he's starring in, what do we make of this news in the galaxy far, far away?
I'm kind of sad that it's only his voice being lent to this, because it would be really funny to see like a MODOK style face stretching into like a Jabba the Hutt kind of character, That would be
for sure, man. For sure,
absolutely hilarious for that guy.
Do you think they'll go with puppetry in this one, or you think they'll go back to puppets a little bit with this version?
They've been doing a lot with puppets as far as like animatronics and the robots. Because a lot of the robots are like there's 3 people that are involved in making the robot happen, but it's still a robot walking doing the thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went back to practicals because they looked so much better when it came to, making Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt in, the prequel trilogy looked freaking terrible. And then when he was CG in the Clone Wars, it was like, he looks like any other polygon that got created for, an animated thing. He's a blob polygon. Cool. So like the practicals, I believe, are the best interpretation, the best version of that. They just look the best. And as far as this guy play, like the character, like Rada the Hutt, meh. Like he was a slug, a little baby slug that was screaming the whole time when he was shown. So like this character is basically just Greenfield. Like he's only related to things that we know by name, and that's it. So I'm looking forward to it. He's a Golden Globe winner, frequent, nominee and winner. So like, it makes sense that it's going to be somebody good at the job of acting to do this character. I just don't know how much of a role that character is going to play.
Yeah, I saw that he was cast in Star Wars, and I was like, oh man, he's so hot right now that like it's gonna be some like big character that's really gonna be.
It is a big character.
He's gonna be this. Yeah, it is a big character. Well, I guess we don't know, right? Like he was this little slug, and now how fast do Hutts grow?
Sure.
He's actually just like a slightly bigger slug now.
We know that he's going to be in Mandalorian and Grogu, so we have a general idea of the time frame for that one. And if I'm not mistaken, Rota Arata made his first appearance in the 2008 Clone Wars animated film that preceded the animated series. So if we roughly know when the Clone Wars took place and when Ahsoka was Anakin's Padawan, we can, do a little bit of math and figure out that, I don't know how fast Hutts, to your point, how fast they mature, but he probably should be. He
like I would think they like my human centric brain thinks like, oh, if he's in his 20s by now, like he'll be like a normal size Hutt, but who knows? They may have a really long growth period.
Yeah, he could be a Grogu style.
Yeah, it could be a Grogu
thing. He's probably
it makes sense.
He's actually the same age as Grogu.
50.
Yeah, they're buddies. Anyway, I was surprised to hear it was a Hutt, but I also think that's kind of cool because I think that this might just be the first time Jeremy Allen White plays in the Star Wars universe. Like this will not preclude him from doing other things, and so I don't know. We'll see.
They could put so much effects on his voice that it doesn't matter. It's like being a stormtrooper. Like, oh, I was in it.
That's exactly where I was going to take it. Star Wars has a long tradition of taking like high profile actors and giving them pretty like thankless roles. Like Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper. Joseph Gordon-Levitt voiced a like patron in the casino in Last Jedi. So, but when I saw this headline, I was like, no way. This has to be a prank. This has to be a joke or something like that. Because my impression of Jeremy Allen White is, and I don't know I think it was an interview I read maybe like a year, 6 months ago or something like that, but I just got the sense that this guy has no interest in doing like blockbuster franchise films. He wants to do his dramatic work on TV and then look at the roles he's selected. The Iron Claw with Zac Efron last year, which got some awards buzz in A24 film. Now he's got the Bruce Springsteen biopic, where he's going to play the boss. So when I saw this, I was like, did he lose a bet? Did he have a bet with one of his like acting friends or celebrities? It's like, you have to do this now, but
he owes someone a favor.
Yeah. Then I go right back to Chris Evans, and I'm like, what motivated Chris Evans to want to come back? And I think about his Bear co-star, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, and I'm like, did they just have some conversation on the set of The Bear where he's like, check out this check I got from the Fantastic Four, where I don't even have to be on set all the time. I get to do like a CG character. And he's like, oh, I got to get me some of that, Disney money.
Yep. Yeah. Gotta get in some of that Disney money. Sit behind a microphone in my PJs and just collect that check.
Yep.
Cousin showed up in a Lamborghini or whatever, and
Yep.
Jeremy Allen White was like, okay, maybe I could. I'll do a voice. I'll voice a Hutt. Does that count? Can I get a check for that?
I can be like, hold on, boy. I can collect a check.
It also, to your point, just it might be a way that he can maybe he's a Star Wars fan, but he doesn't want it to be the thing he's known for.
Sure.
So playing a Hutt is a perfect way to be like, I'm there. It's a thing. I got to do it. I mean, that's why Daniel Craig, I believe, did a Stormtrooper, and the other one you mentioned. Those roles don't happen necessarily because they are underutilizing a great actor. It's because the actor's like, can I be in a Star Wars?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so maybe this is one of those situations. But the fact that it's a story in the news feels like it's more than that, I guess.
It also, for whatever reason, like it just feels like a little disparaging towards him, or just kind of like, again, like it feels like he lost a bet because like this is the dude that's strutting around in his Calvin Kleins, like modeling. It's like, no, we're gonna make you this like gross slug creature.
It's really funny, very funny.
How dare you body shame the Hutt?
Yeah,
that's fair.
Totally reasonable weight for a Hutt.
Yeah, very attractive for a Hutt.
Yeah.
All right, well, we won't focus in on the physical aspects. Let's talk about the enslaving sex workers and murder, and
that's just the environment he was raised in. He doesn't know any better, Scotty.
Plus, it's sins of the father. Maybe this Hutt's not so bad. Maybe
he's trying to turn around the Hutt clan. Yeah,
a little morally complex Hutt.
Turn it over a better leaf.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with things from Harry Potter, Star Trek, Scrubs maybe coming back, more MCU stuff. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about right after this. Welcome back to Multiverse News. Hey, if you like this podcast and you like what we do here, please think about going to patreon.com/multiverse newscast. We really try to bring you guys a really great and informative and exciting and fun show every week. So if you like what we do, go tip us that $1 a week, $4 a month, and it really helps out keep us doing what we're doing. So thank you. Patreon.com/multiverse newscast.
Thanks to all the new patrons that have joined recently.
Did we get a few this week?
Yeah, we got a couple this week.
Oh, nice. I actually wasn't here last week. I listened. I really enjoyed y'all's episode. But maybe that's the key. Maybe I should miss more weeks because I didn't even hear that we got new patrons. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
And we have a Spotify poll for this week. We asked, how far into the Arrowverse did you watch? Ooh. Jeff has thoughts.
Okay.
Too long. It was too far is how far I watched. It took me too long to realize that they were doing Discount Batman.
That's Green Arrow. That's what Green Arrow is, I feel like. But yeah. So in our poll here, we had 1.7% of you said better late than never. So I guess those people getting on board like right now. And 39.7 of you never started. Wow. 36.2 of you, I fell off after insert show or storyline here.
We got a bunch of comments. Like this might be one of the most commented on episodes we've ever had. A lot of people chimed in.
Oh, cool.
Like too many to cite, but I think Flash was a frequent one that was mentioned. Legends of Tomorrow, once that ran its course. Crisis on Infinite Earths, once they did that team up, they kind of moved on afterwards. But yeah.
Yeah. I forget where exactly I fell off. It wasn't anything like it wasn't a big moment. It was just they were making too many shows. It was like once it was at like 5 shows at a time, I couldn't keep up anymore. I really liked all of them pretty well, but it was just once it got to a critical mass, I just fell off. But the last one we have here, I'm a Legend of Tomorrow, which I guess means you watched it all, is 22.4%.
Wow.
That's a lot of watching.
It is a lot of watching. We had about 58% of you watched the show in some form or fashion. So yeah, dig it.
I was talking about being a Legend of Tomorrow is a lot of watching, but yeah, to your point too. Yeah, we had a lot of watchers. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Well, yeah. So check out last week's episode on Spotify if you want to see some of those comments and see where people all fell. Because, like this guy said, we can't read them all here. But you guys ready to move on to the lightning round?
Sure.
Ready.
All right. All right, let's do it. This is where I'm going to read a story, and then we will claim that story by shouting out our name. First one to yell out their name gets to take the story and then comment on it. And then once per lightning round, we get a rebuttal. So here we go. Season 2 of Netflix's Wednesday has officially wrapped production. Last week, Netflix released a first-look image at Jenna Ortega in character and confirmed that the series will debut sometime in 2025.
Scotty, I'd have to finish up Season 1 before I move on to Season 2, but I am hopeful and looking forward to a new string of viral dancing videos and cosplayers inspired by Jenna Ortega's absolutely brilliant take on Wednesday.
Well, and her roommate kind of have a similar vibe to the Wicked situation.
Oh, good call.
You've got the one bright indeed. And one dark character. Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, HBO is circling I May Destroy You actor Papa Essiedu to play Severus Snape in the upcoming Harry Potter series. Sources tell Hollywood Reporter that the actor has been offered the role, but official negotiations have not yet begun.
Scotty? So this is kind of, we heard about Mark Rylance being in talks for Dumbledore a couple of weeks ago, but this is really the first most substantial and realistic, it feels like it's concrete casting that's happening here. So I find it interesting that not only are they choosing to go in a different direction, not only just in the character's appearance and his ethnicity, which, has elicited some reactions, but again, I will always say I don't think that is a fair thing to be complain about if the actor inhibits all the qualities of that character from the page. And, J.K. Rowling, she hasn't been the most inclusive person, but she apparently is involved with this show and gets to sign off on all the casting. So take that for what it's worth. But they're going a lot younger, even with Mark Rylance as Dumbledore and, Papa Essiedu as Snape potentially. That's a lot younger. So it makes sense, wanting to have these actors along for the long run for 7 seasons of television. But I'm also kind of hopeful that, in the books, we got to learn a lot more about Snape's past and his dealings with Harry's parents, James in particular. So I'm hopeful, if they cast a little bit younger, they'll be able to go back and flesh out even more of these character stories.
So you think they might use the same actors to play the younger roles based on the young casting?
I guess that's a fair point. Considering they were in school, it'd be difficult to go that young. But even as young adults, I struggle to remember how old James and Lily Potter were when they unfortunately passed away. But I do think they were on the younger side. So you might have just poked a hole in everything I brought up. But I'm not the Harry Potter guy. So.
Good on you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's all good.
It all just comes crumbling down as soon as you lightly brush his house of cards.
I just thought it was an interesting take. I wanted to know more.
Well, I did too until
Instead, you disassembled all of it.
Man, I'm always doing this. I'm that Lenny guy of Mice and Men. I want to know about the take. Destroyed. Okay. Sienna Miller has been cast to star opposite John Krasinski in the Jack Ryan feature that is in the works at Amazon MGM Studios. Matt, I didn't even know they were making a Jack Ryan movie. We've probably talked about it, but this seems like a no-brainer. I think to take that character, and I wonder if it will be a theatrical release or it will be just straight to Amazon, which will feel a little, like just another longer episode possibly. But with John Krasinski having the cachet he does, they could definitely take it to theaters probably if they wanted to. Yeah, and the Jack Ryan character has been on screen many, many times with no context. So, and it's a really cool thing. If you've got this character you've built on the TV show, then you take him to the movie theater and whatever, into the movies, whether it's the theater or not, and be able to make a new Jack Ryan movie, but with the true fans of that show having all that background that didn't exist before. I think that's a really cool idea. All right. Sam Richardson, the Emmy-winning comedian known for his work on Veep and Ted Lasso, and Emilia Pérez, star of WandaVision and The Marvels, are both joining John Cena in Matchbox, Apple Original Films' live-action take on the classic Mattel car toy line. Matt, I'm in. I'm so in.
Okay.
Like I didn't think I'd be in. I've just recently watched. Oh gosh, I'm so bad at the name of the show. You should leave. You should leave.
Oh, I think you should leave. Yeah,
I think you should leave.
Okay,
Sam Richardson.
I'm sorry.
Sam Richardson's great on that. He's also with Tim Robinson in a show called Detroiters, where they are they're best friends and the main cast of that show. Love Sam Richardson. He's also I'll bring it up when that story comes up, but he's also in another story from tonight. I've been on record, I think on this podcast, talking about John Cena. I think that John Cena always punches above his weight. Like, any movie he's in, he improves that movie. Like, I didn't expect to like him so much, but I keep watching movies that are like that Stanicki movie.
Oh, Nicky Stanicki. Yeah,
Ricky Stanicki. Yeah,
Ricky Stanicki. You're right. Yeah,
Ricky Stanicki. Thought that movie would be terrible, and it was like whatever. But man, John Cena brought it and like really like went all in on the character and like really brought it. And I watched that Vacation Friends series, both 1 and 2, and I just loved them.
I like both of those. Yeah.
John Cena is kind of killing it. And I even went back, I watched the movie Sisters. I think I mentioned this in the podcast months ago, but I watched the movie Sisters with Tina Fey, and he plays a very small role in that, and he's awesome. He's like the drug dealer, and I was like, man, he's elevated everything I've seen him in, so I'm kind of in on John Cena as a comedy, killer comedy guy. And so that tone with Sam Richardson and Teyonah Parris in, even though it's about Matchbox cars, like I think I'm in just based on the talent.
I have a bit of a but.
Yeah.
For the Matchbox part of it. Why can't Hollywood write new, fresh material instead of banking entirely on nostalgia?
Yeah.
Like, the entire thing is built on the name of Matchbox. Oh, it's Matchbox cars. You remember the Mattel cars that you had as a kid? Yeah, I remember those. Yeah, let's go see a movie about it. What freaking movie can there be about that? Give me something new and fresh that I can't watch or won't watch, and we'll hear about it when it comes Golden Globes time.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Exactly. Thank you, Jeff. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I had a rebuttal for myself built into it.
You rebutted yourself in your rebuttal.
As I was ranting about it, I was like, I wouldn't watch it anyway because
if it wasn't connected to something. Well, the thing is, like, why is this? Okay, rebuttal to your rebuttal of the rebuttal. Like, this particular franchise,
it's like
the Matchbox. I like big butts, and I cannot lie. The Matchbox brand, I don't think has any cachet in like a blockbuster sense. Like, yes, you could have named this anything and created a new series out of it. I think calling this Matchbox Cars or whatever is just weird nostalgia bait that I don't think will matter to its success. Like, yeah, Marvel and DC and like Star Trek and Star Wars, these have fan bases. Harry Potter, they have fan bases that want to go see them, but the name of a toy, I will never understand, like naming a thing after a toy and expecting that to up its box office,
Yep. I entirely agree with you. I think that's why I'm angry about it and like pissed off that Hollywood, they are doing this. Like, just call it something else. Like, don't,
yeah.
You're pulling at nostalgia for no reason other than let's pull at nostalgia.
Yeah. And I hope I eat my words. I probably would have said something similar about Barbie, but they killed it on that. So,
right.
But that has all this like emotional baggage and like social commentary mixed in with the aspects of Barbie. Like, Matchbox cars are just vroom vroom on a little track. Like, I don't know what I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and I know we're long-winded on this one, but I got to chime in too. And at the end of the day, it's not going to matter if this movie is for me or for you or for the critics or anything like that, because it's going to be about the kids. And even though it's Matchbox, where it doesn't necessarily have like a recognizable character that you can attach to it, the cars are enough. Like, you see it with Jurassic Park, you see it with Pixar with the Cars movies. Like, there's something to be said for that like demographic of like 4 to 8-year-old boys that will just like hound their parents to buy all these toys and take them to go see these movies. So yeah, as far as the tale that's going to be weed for us here, the only place that my mind can go is maybe it's like an Indian in the cupboard kind of situation where I could see like John Cena maybe like selling cars to people and then like having to deal with the repercussions that he's been selling like fake cars to people or something like that. But at the end of the day, as long as there's like, you know, fast cars that look cool and explosions and stuff like that, that's going to be enough for them to make money, which is what it all comes down to, right?
John Cena, fast cars, explosions, done. That's the movie pitch.
My pitch is that like Tiana Paris and Sam Richardson, like you said, sort of a Indian in the cupboard or like a whatever toy story or whatever, somehow get transported Jumanji style into the world of the Matchbox cars, and John Cena is just like an amalgamation of a car guy, you know, like he's like the generic car guy in the car, and they have to somehow like whatever win the race to escape or something. I don't know.
He's Racer X. Oh no, wait, that's Speed Racer.
Yeah, exactly.
Underrated movie.
Oh, you think?
Oh yeah. It's great.
That's the hot take of the episode.
If you haven't watched it since you saw it the first time, go back. I guarantee you.
It's flashy as hell. Like, it's really pretty.
I remember liking it, but it didn't like blow me away. And I had high expectations because the Wachowskis are, you know, had just made like, I think one of the best series. And then they turned to make Speed Racer and I was like, yeah, it was cool.
Sure.
I think they had V for Vendetta in between there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do love V for Vendetta. I don't think I realized that was the Wachowskis until you just said it.
Well, now you know. And knowing is half the battle.
Indeed.
Now we're going back to nostalgia again.
All right, the first trailer for Doctor Who Christmas special Joy to the Worlds has dropped. The special debuts on Disney Plus on December 25th.
AKA Christmas.
That's right, Christmas special. They always do one. I'll take this one, Matt.
Matt, you're the movie in.
I don't really like this trailer. I think that Ncuti Gatwa's been a pretty good Doctor Who, but I don't know if it's him or it's me getting older, but Doctor Who is starting to feel more childish, and I don't know if it's like this era of Who feels a little more childish, and part of it is like it's a little too clean. Like I feel like it used to feel a little more indie in certain episodes, and lately like the lighting is just a little too clean, like they're in a studio all the time, and I just haven't it doesn't have that kind of homemade feel, and a lot of it's CGI these days, and this trailer particularly just kind of felt frivolous or like silly, and I really like the Doctor when he has that like fire behind his eyes and he's dangerous. Yeah, I haven't seen that from Ncuti yet, but I liked the season. There were a couple really good episodes, but so I'm tentatively excited for this episode.
Where does this rank in like compared to the Doctor dances?
I don't know. I hadn't seen it yet.
Based on trailer alone.
Low.
Okay. I will continue not watching Doctor Who then.
Yeah, so far I just think the trailer looks a little too silly and not heartfelt enough, and I like a good heartfelt Doctor. All right, Elizabeth Olsen is joining Julia Roberts in the upcoming thriller Panic Carefully. Panic Carefully is described as a paranoid thriller reminiscent of Silence of the Lambs and Mr. Robot. Kevin McCormick and Crystal Lee will oversee it for Warner Brothers.
Jeff, I like Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah, me too, man.
That's really the only take. Like it's, I like the idea of a paranoid thriller coming back into the mix of stuff, because like so many horror things lately have just been like all about jump scares and like blood spray, and like there's room for that in the B-movie cinema, but there's been too much, and I feel like we need to get back to the cerebral things, much like Silence of the Lambs was. So I'm looking forward to that with Elizabeth Olsen and Julia Roberts being together. Like that's probably gonna be solid, because they tend to do good work. And I mean, Panic Carefully is just a hilarious title for me, because that's kind of my thing. Panic. It's like, but carefully.
Yes.
It's the juxtaposition that I always tell people. Like, how do we do this? Carefully. What are you gonna do? Panic. Like both of those things.
Yeah. Tiny, but I get that they're both paranoid thrillers, but I'm trying to reconcile it in myself, Silence of the Lambs and Mr. Robot, and how those feel similar. Like it's in the vein of Mr. Robot and Silence of the Lambs. And I get they're both paranoid and they're both thrillers, but they have in my brain they fill such different space that it's hard for me to like think about if those have similar tones or not. I guess they kind of do. Like there's a lot of like levity in Mr. Robot in the face of terror stuff, and like, you know, some of that's there in Silence of the Lambs. I don't know. It's weird. That's a weird.
You can be
comparison.
paranoid about anything, Matt.
True. All right, Asa German, a cast member from The Boys and Gen V, is the newest addition to the cast of Scream 7.
Hey, you remember what I said about blood and jump scares and nostalgia crap? Move on.
Yeah. Small thing on this, I feel like he's got to be a relative of Billy Loomis. Like, he looks like, to me, like the hair and everything looks a lot like Billy Loomis did way back when in Scream 1.
Yeah, you're right. I had to look up the actor to recall exactly who he is, but I definitely recognize him from Gen V. Maybe a connection to Loomis I could definitely see, but I also don't like that because I'm trying to say this without spoilers. But the last group of characters had some ties to that character specifically as well, so be a little odd.
He is the OG. Speaking of Scream, we got to meet Mr. We said it on the cast. We said Matt it on Lillard. MCU cast. We got to meet Matthew Lillard, and I got to talk to him about Scream.
himself.
Yeah, he's my favorite part of that movie. I love him.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
Variety has learned that Bill Lawrence is currently developing a reboot of the sitcom Scrubs for ABC via 20th Century Television. Scrubs originally aired on NBC for the first 7 seasons from 2001 to 2008, followed by 2 seasons at ABC from 2009 to 2010.
Do we need a reboot?
Well, it's interesting. If you don't know the history of Scrubs a little bit.
I don't. Tell us, Matt.
Originally, the show was intended to be an ER analog. Like the show ER was on, and they did this thing where they had a cast, but then certain cast members would leave and others would come, and they when they originally conceived of the show, it was supposed to be like a hospital where like different actors and different characters would come in and out. But then they got locked in on like those main 6 cast members and just stayed there for 8 years or whatever, or 7 years. And and then they tried with the ABC episodes to like, hey, there's a new cast. Like the old cast is here, sorta, but we're doing this new thing. But it didn't really take. And so they just never
with Dave Franco.
Yeah, I think they were. I think it was 2 seasons. I think that was the ABC seasons, if I'm not mistaken. And he's great on it. But they're just, for whatever reason, they just couldn't get away from like JD and Turk. Like it was the JD and Turk show, and it stayed there. So I wonder if they bring it back, if they'll try something similar. Yeah, they are hilarious. I do think that that's both why the show worked and why it ran a normal number of years. I think the idea was to keep going, kind of like ER or like one of those dramas where they keep refreshing the cast every few years and keep moving.
Yeah.
In a world of ER and Chicago Fire and 911, do we really need another medical procedural?
If it's a comedy, you know what I mean? Like if it's a totally different tone. Like that was the thing. It's almost like a parody of those shows and doing that same
kind of like an
thing.
SNL version.
Yeah, sort of.
How, you always get new writers and new cast members on SNL. They cycle in and move on to other things. It's a meat grinder for comedy people.
It is. I will say I also just think Bill Lawrence can do whatever he wants at this point. If he wants to go back and do Scrubs again, I'm fine with that. Like his Ted Lasso, Shrinking. I have not seen Cougar Town, but I have so many friends who swear by it. He's had a lot of really killer shows. And especially lately with Ted Lasso and Shrinking. So I think, and Scrubs. I love Scrubs. So, all right. Apple Films has released the first trailer for The Gorge, directed by Scott Derrickson and starring Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. The film will debut on Apple TV Plus on Valentine's Day. Oh, sweet.
Scotty, I messed up. I'll admit to a boo-boo. I did not watch this trailer. It somehow slipped between the cracks in this lightning round for me, but I will say I like Scott Derrickson. Miles Teller, I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap, especially having been attached to a previous version of the Fantastic Four, but I think you look back to his performance in Whiplash, and it's right there. Anya Taylor-Joy, obviously immensely talented and really becoming a rising name here. So this is another feather in Apple TV Plus's crown. Hopefully it gets some viewers.
Yeah, and not to keep messing up the lightning round of it all, but I did watch this trailer, and it is like an original IP. They're doing something different, so we always talk about that. But I do think that it looks like the kind of movie that could be really fun and interesting and like get people butts in seats. Is that Valentine's Day? Is that the same day that Thunderbolts drops? Or no, Brave New World, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's terrible counter programming because I feel like this is a very similar audience. It looks like it's got a horror vibe for sure, but it looks like an adventure romance story, and I feel like it's gonna get eaten up by Brave New World, which is a really bummer.
Well, you watch Brave New World in theaters, and then you go home and watch, The Gorge on Apple TV. I'm sorry, Apple TV Plus.
Oh, it's going straight to streaming.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. So it has a chance. I was thinking it was a theatrical release. My bad. I don't listen to myself when I read. Nora star Mark Edelstein has joined the second season of Prime Video's series Mr. and Mrs. Smith and will star as the lead.
Scotty, I did not watch the first season of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I believe you did, Matt, so maybe you can add some additional context here. But I have seen Honora, and I'll say right now, we talked a little bit about with the Golden Globes how the awards season is upcoming. Honora is one of my favorite films of the year, might be my favorite, and Mark Edelstein has a great performance in there. He's one of those, like, you love him, but when the time becomes to hate him, you absolutely detest him. So I think he's really talented in that regard. Physically, though, this is where I say I did not see that first season because, Donald Glover doesn't really come, top of mind as an quote-unquote action star. But, Mark Edelstein, he's a very lithe, very spindly kind of guy. But maybe he can put on some muscle because we don't really know when this second season is going to come out. The casting is just starting, so.
The only thing I could add, based on having seen the first season, is I don't know this actor, but I did watch an interview with him, kind of to see what his vibe was like, and he has a thick accent. Which one of the things about the show is that they have these Mr. and Mrs. Smiths that are doing some sort of intelligence work, but they don't seem connected to countries, and so you get this vibe of like they seem to be working for some sort of organization, but it doesn't seem to necessarily be. Like, I think that's one of the mysteries of the show is, like, who are they working for? You don't really get that in the first season, but, like, I think that's going to be one of the ongoing threads. And, like, the idea that I think there might be Mr. and Mrs. Smiths all around the world. And so I wonder what his backstory will be. Because they went into the backstory a little bit of the characters in the first season. And I love the show. Really cool. And so him having such a thick accent makes me interested because so far, I think all the characters have seemed like just basic American, sure. And so, I was interested to see what they do with a character who's not American and what that means for who this organization is. All right, Sony Pictures has released its first trailer for 28 years later, director Danny Boyle's long-awaited zombie apocalypse sequel. The film will be released on June 20th.
Jeff, move
Scotty.
on. Sorry. Go ahead.
Jeff's not cool with creating anything.
It has to be new, and I'm not going to watch it.
That's fair. That's fair. All that being said, I thought this was a really, really well-cut trailer. It did the thing where it's got minimal dialogue, minimal sound, really. They use like an old radio recording. I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be like Truman or maybe Churchill or something like that, but it gave me vibes of like that era, like announcements to the public, kind of like preparing them for incoming doom and bombardment and stuff like that. So apart from that, a lot of striking visuals that flash by really quickly. It looks cool. And then the only other thing I can take away from this is that it's clear that Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to be the lead. So I think he's a safe bet. We'll see how Craven does, but I think as far as talent, Aaron Taylor Johnson is a safe performer to bet on.
It's interesting because 28 Days Later is a zombie movie that really tried to make it it was a smaller, lower budget art house film in that style of being a zombie movie. And this feels like they're returning to that, but it's way later in the apocalypse, and I have seen way too much Walking Dead, and so like everything they showed, almost every visual in this trailer was a different season of The Walking Dead, but it's going to be weird because it's like all of these storylines are going to feel familiar, but it's going to be through this like lens of a more serious take on it, and I'm here for it. I'm down, but it was a little I don't know, disconcerting to see so many things that like, oh yeah, there's those guys dressed like that. That's kind of a thing they did on The Walking Dead. And there's this kind of community and this kind of community. And like, yeah, it was interesting.
Walking Dead did it. It's like the new version of Simpsons did it.
Yeah, exactly. If it's a post-apocalypse thing, The Walking Dead's probably done it at this point. Like 18 seasons of television now. The box office trio of Moana 2, Wicked, and Gladiator 2 continued their strong holds, combining for a $132 million weekend, breaking the record for this time frame set in 2018. Moana 2 also officially crossed the $600 million mark globally.
Scotty, I guess I will say it's just nice and encouraging to see that there is still plenty of space for all these movies to perform reasonably well. And I think the real question here will be, I honestly do not see either film quite making it, but I do think it'll be pretty close for both Moana and Wicked as far as encroaching on that $1 billion threshold there. Gladiator 2, you know, it like I said last week, it's got to continue to have strong weeks like this just to kind of make its money back. It's not going to be, it won't, blow the doors down for the studio or anything like that, but it could be at least a decent return on investment. So we'll see what happens a little later this month, because we're going to have, a Complete Unknown and Mufasa hitting sooner rather than later. So
yeah.
Did I hear you say Gladiator 2? You dare mention that name in my presence.
Jeff doesn't like to talk about Gladiator 2.
We don't talk about that.
Mm-mm.
Much like Bruno, we don't talk about Denzel Washington and Gladiator 2.
Speaking of Disney movies, we don't talk about Gladiator 2. Okay, Paramount Plus released the official trailer for its original movie Star Trek Section 31, starring Michelle Yeoh, during the streamer's presentation Saturday at CCXP in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The movie will debut on January 24th. Matt, obviously, I'm excited for this. Michelle Yeoh is great, and it's so funny. I really recently got into I Think You Should Leave and Detroiters and watched the entire series, and I love Sam Richardson. I had seen the first trailer for this movie, and I didn't know who he and then I watched both of those shows, and this time Sam Richardson is listed second in the cast on IMDb, and I was like, oh man, Sam Richardson's in this. I'm so much more excited now. Like the plucky comedy relief character is going to be Sam Richardson. I'm in. Love the character. that Michelle Yeoh plays in this series, and I'm excited to see it because it's just a totally different vibe than anything Star Trek's ever done. So if it's successful, this may be kind of like a new tone for Star Trek to set going forward. So digging
I
it.
need more Michelle Yeoh everywhere, in everything,
All at once, man.
and I need all of them right now.
Yeah.
You can see Wicked. She's in Wicked.
Oh, she is? I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I hadn't seen it yet.
Huh.
All right, Prime Video has released the first teaser trailer for the third season of fantasy drama The Wheel of Time. Amazon has confirmed a release date for the series of March 13th. Anybody watch this trailer?
Nope.
I did not.
Anybody
either.
watch The Wheel of Time at all?
I watched the first 3 episodes and did not get hooked.
I think that was the general consensus. So I think my biggest surprise here is that it's got a third season because it seemed like lukewarm reception for the first season.
Yeah, man. How do you turn a book into a phenomenon like, Harry Potter did or whatever? Like, my niece started reading the Percy Jackson books, which I know you're a big fan of, Jeff, right?
Yep. Big Percy Jackson guy.
Yeah, so she read the first book today, and she had the flu like me, and stayed home and read the first 300 pages of the 370-page book in one day. And so she could not put that thing down. She loved it. She sat all day.
It's like that. It do be like that on Percy Jackson.
Yeah, that's really cool, and I'm excited for her to get in. Someone gave her the whole series for her birthday, and she's been burning through it. But how do you turn a series? Because that's they've tried twice now, a movie series and a television version. And have either of those Percy Jackson ones worked?
The TV series has been great.
Yeah, people really dig that.
Is it still ongoing?
Yeah, it's got a second season in the works. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
okay.
A third season, maybe.
Second season.
Yeah.
Second season coming.
I just hadn't heard as much about it, so I'm like, it's just feels so random as to what's going to really hit. Like Hunger Games and Harry Potter are like the big ones, and then it's like what else has ever done those kind of numbers,
Well, I think with those it's kind of, and also with the series of Percy Jackson, it's like they tend to do better when they stick more to the novelization as written, like the story as written. Like maybe take a few artistic licenses, maybe change a few things to modernize it a little bit, but for the most part, stick to the same story because that's what people love. And that's why the movie did so horribly in Percy Jackson. And then the series has done so well because they for the most part, stuck to the story in the book.
Okay.
Well, the first movie did well enough to get a sequel, right? Because it was Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and then Sea of Monsters or something like that?
Sea of Monsters, and both of them were bad.
Okay. I didn't watch.
There was no reason for them to do a sequel because the first one was so bad, and then the second one they were like, let's try to fix it. Nah, it's still bad.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, last two lightning round topics. In an interview with Screen Geek, Coleman Domingo revealed that he has had a meeting with Marvel Studios about the potential role in the MCU franchise. Domingo, who has been a popular fan cast to replace Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror, was specific that at this time there is no formally offered roles, but there is an open dialogue about pairing the actor with a role in the franchise in the future.
Jeff.
Matt? You go for it, Jeff.
Anything to wash the taste of Kang the Conqueror out. We got to get Jonathan Majors gone so that we can move on.
Yeah.
As much as I loved He Who Remains, he was so much fun. He was so great. Unfortunately, Jonathan Majors has put a stain on it with his self, his ness. We got to move on. So, give me Coleman Domingo. Absolutely.
Yeah. I sorry, I know we want to get done here, but I just want to chime in and say, I am a proponent. I do not condone any of the actions Jonathan Majors was accused of or, convicted of in some degree. But I am a proponent for separating the art from the artist. So I will say that, I am able to compartmentalize and I can look back on Jonathan Majors' performance and the character of Kang and not have a big issue with it. But in terms of like Domingo here, I think it would be a disservice to Domingo, to Coleman Domingo, to slot him into a role that another actor inhabited, and that his performance would consistently be compared to. And to your point, Jeff, I think in order to move on from Jonathan Majors and the character of Kang, it just be done with the character. Don't recast. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I don't know. I'm down for the recast if that's even what they're doing here, which I think is pretty likely.
He's Blue Marvel.
Yeah, he could be something completely different, but I think it's pretty likely this is for Kang, and I'm into it. I think Coleman Domingo has a lot of the same strengths that Jonathan Majors has as an actor. He can really play a really broad range, and he can be impish and fun, very much like the He Who Remains version, or he can be very like serious and angry, and like he can really manifest both of those things. And so I would be down for, if they're going to recast it, I think he's a great choice, I guess.
Sure.
And
sure.
I do, as much as I hear you about like you said, the sort of like, you're always going to be comparing the two actors. I mean, they've done it before, and it's like,
sure,
if you'd said that for Rhodey, we would have never gotten a great second Rhodey,
But that actor only had the one outing. Terrence Howard,
sure,
versus Jonathan Majors was in multiple like episodes of TV shows and a movie. So
yeah, for sure. So I we'll see. We're to have the second change, which is William Hurt being replaced by that's because of a death, but still
right.
So he's been in probably a similar, well, not in hours, but similar amount of things as Jonathan Majors was. But we'll see how that works.
Fair. Yeah.
All right, exactly 2 years after Amazon MGM Studios acquired global rights to Warhammer 40K, Henry Cavill is set to star in and executive produce a cinematic universe. The first piece of the potential franchise, a TV series, is now officially in development at the studio.
Jeff, hell yeah. Give me the biggest freaking nerd in Hollywood. Give him all the money, put him in charge of all of it, and watch how great something comes out. Like The Witcher, when he was a part of that and like had a lot of creative control, was amazing. Henry Cavill is great and is such a huge nerd. I love this. You give the people who love the product control of the thing, and it's going to be great. That's all there is to it. Let's go. Let's LFG, as they said in Deadpool and Wolverine.
And hey, I like hearing that he's the executive producer, because maybe finally he'll get to play a beloved property that he really likes and not get kicked off of it.
Yeah, like to completion.
He's like, you can't remove me. I'm the boss now.
Yep.
Yeah. Rather than being yanked around, he gets to do the yanking around this time. Like,
yeah, he gets a hand on the wheel.
Those pauldrons are going to need to be at least 5 times bigger.
15 meters tall. The Space Marines are not quite big enough, don't you think?
Yep.
Everybody's just going to be on stilts, sir. Bigger!
We need stilts on stilts.
There's not enough stilts! Like every time I see a Space Marine like cosplay and it's somebody on stilts just standing in the middle of Dragon Con, I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's wild. It's wild. All right. Well, that's all our stories for today. Let's go around and tell the people where they can find you online. If you got anything going on, Jeff Randall, what you got going on right now?
Oh, we're just doing Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. You know how it is, but we're also doing over on Always Watching. We're doing Skeleton Crew, because
we are.
That little kid show has somehow been so freaking fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm over there too. Check that out. And J. Sky St. Clair.
Yeah, over on the Always Watching feed, you can also check out Haley and I's coverage of Silo Season 2 on Apple TV Plus. And over on Animation to Liberation, we talk about the latest and greatest in action animated series. So Creature Commandos just dropped on Max. Definitely excited to talk about that one.
Sweet. And I'm also on the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast and the Always Watching feed this week with Skeleton Crew over there with Jeff. So check all that out. And we'll be back here on Multiverse News next week. And I hopefully won't have the flu anymore and my brain will work. So, peace.
You stay classy and healthy, Multiverse.
Hey.
No. Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing. Eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. StrandedPanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts. And thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.